All right. Sorry about the delay. It's just been that kind of week. Um, so the first thing that I would say right off the bat is that you want to really sit down and break down the idea of what your concept is going to be. And so the problem you've got going on right now is there's actually several different pieces. The first thing I think is anatomy. The second thing is kind of your silhouette, and the third thing is your form and your lighting. And so one of the things I look at when I look at something like this is how you're kind of developing this process. And so if I'm going to just grab let's grab a green here, and oops, go bigger again. Okay, so looking at this, the first problem that you have is your anatomy needs some work. The head is a little bit too small. The joints don't really line up. So the way I look at this is, let's grab an actual brush here instead of a. Okay, so the first thing I look at is I would build out the skeleton. So I would kind of go out like so. I'm going to build out your hips, your shoulders, um, and I would, since you're doing a little twist here, that's good. I would bring this knee up a little bit more, bring it over, because of the way things are. You've got kind of this perspective here, you've got kind of this straight perspective here, and then the problem is then the perspective changes with your knee, and so it develops in a different direction. And so you want to kind of idealize and define that. And then over here, the knee is bent completely wrong, whereas it should be bent over here, and then the foot should also go this way. So you want to just kind of define those areas with the silhouette, like something like that instead. And then on top of that, your overall silhouette over here and here is fine, but then this one kind of blends in with the character. So I think just moving this out would be kind of a more of a running pose, and I think that's going to work better for you. So getting that anatomy working for you, I think is something more that you want to kind of work with. Now I accidentally drew over this, so I'm going to just sorry about my cat here. So I'm going to just undo all this real quick here. And so with that in mind, what I would tell you to do is I would tell you to, I'm going to just copy this layer so I can kind of work from it. So I would say right off the bat is let's start with kind of fixing the anatomy on this real quick. Transform it, move this up here, rotate, and kind of put that right there. Select, deselect, and brush. So I'm going to just kind of pick your brown color here, or your blue color, and just kind of start painting out some of that in there. And then on top of that, the anatomy, is got some issues. But the other aspect of that is that you have your drapery is like the character's in mid run, but the drapery is not doing, not reacting to the movement. And so, the first thing I would do is let's grab this knee here, and actually let's clean this up. So I'm going to just kind of grab this brown color that you've got and start kind of putting in that aspect. But before I do, I'm going to undo some of that, and I'm going to grab this leg here, and select and transform, and we're going to bring the knee up here. And yeah, my cat feels like she can draw better than me, so we're just going to put that over there. And some days, I actually think she probably can. So I'm just going to yeah, I'm going to just delete that. I don't need that piece. So I'm going to go here, and let's kind of really quickly rough in the blues. And so then I'm going to grab in, and I'm going to grab this dark brown that I was working with before and kind of build in my knee here, and I'm going to bring in this and kind of bring this over like so. And I think this knee kind of just needs to be brought down. So I'm going to bring that down here like so. And kind of bring that into kind of now more of that diagonal. And then with this cloth, I'm going to kind of create a more swooping motion with this cloth. And so it starts now looking a little bit more defined and kind of emphasized. And then think about your lighting, because your lighting is kind of all over the place. And so I'm going to just grab this brown, kind of push this in here like so. This one grabbed here, push that in like so. And I'm going to grab some of this blue and kind of start defining this a little bit more. Maybe grab some of that. And then grab some of this brown and kind of flow that brown through that character. So now it's starting to kind of wrap around. I've got more flow going on. I've got a lot more information in there, and I can use and emphasize the underside of that like so. And let's grab this dark brown here, and we're going to add in kind of this dark shadow, kind of like so, maybe a little bit less like so. And let's put this knee over here a little bit more, grab this, kind of clean that up. And so you can see how that silhouette is really pushing that kind of feeling of your character. Let me just add some of this blue in there just to kind of fluff that in. And so you can see with just these simple changes, let me grab this and kind of bring that over. And so with these simple changes, everything kind of starts appearing. Now I'm going to remove this shadow, and the reason I'm going to remove the shadow is because the light source is coming from down here, so everything needs to kind of be consistent. So right now, if that's the case, then I would add a little bit more shadow here, and I would add a lot more shadow back here, like so. That's your kind of run aspect going on, and then from there. Think about highlights. So if this shadow is coming through the highlight here, you're probably going to have some dark tones, and even probably darker on here, probably a drop shadow from this, and then more shadowing on this here because of the way your shadows are lining up. Okay. And then if you want, that's when you put the white on here to emphasize here and here. And don't make anything strong white, because you want to stay away from strong whites and strong blacks. Especially like this area here is just about all the way black. And I think that getting rid of that is going to help. The other thing is think about silhouette. So like I've got my character running now. I'm going to grab some of this dark here, put this in, and like so, and I'm going to grab a little bit of shadow underneath that, something like that. And then the problem is, he's really mechanical, so let's start adding in a little bit more more silhouettes. And so I'm just kind of pushing in some of these shapes a little bit more. Bigger browns, like this bigger round area here, kind of jagged shapes like so. Let's add in kind of a smooth joint, maybe even some pipes. Adding in some pipes is going to give him much more of a distance type of thing. And then let's re-emphasize this, these blades here, and transform them much bigger. And just like that. And then over here, the same concept too is let's re-emphasize this blade here a little bit more. Let's transform it. Grab this, transform it. I actually kind of like that double blade idea, but I'm going to just kind of scale that up and kind of move that in place. Select the deselect, brush, and let's kind of clean that up. And so now you can start seeing how, like this now, I mean, I've got that nice dark shading, and then I've got the nice bright accents for the white. You know, if you've got strong light coming on, that's when, you know, if you've got strong light coming on, that's when that light is going to really define your form. And so you can see here, just by adding in, you know, these larger shapes, and let's add in kind of, you know, the base shapes in there. By adding in those larger shapes, putting in some extra silhouettes, more of a kind of robotic feel, like breaking out that square. And let's grab this light and highlight. And so now you can start seeing that this character is having a little bit more emphasis on the character itself. And I think one of the things is, let's grab this head and scale it up a little bit, and not quite that big. Let's transform that just a hair down, and then brushing in some of this like gap in there. So now it becomes a little bit more kind of formed up there. And so you can see, simply by, you know, fixing some of the anatomy, you know, getting the better light and shadow in there, like darkening this, you know, stuff here, adding in a couple of these, darkening, you know, darkening some more shapes and like that, and even taking some of this out and kind of, you know, giving it this ragged feel. You know, that's kind of helping your cause as well. And it's all about like that overall presence of that character. And let's break some of this down here a little bit darker, and emphasize more of, you know, let's emphasize more of the upper body, torso area. And so you can see here now, between the two, just go, let's grab this one and move it over and grab that one. And so you can see the two, between the two, you know, this one has much more energy to it, much more like emphasis. And I can even, you know, I can even kind of play with it a little bit more, you know, grabbing this, transforming it. Select, deselect, grab. Grabbing this and put it in there. And so you can see, you know, that character now has a little bit more emphasis. And I would even grab, let's just clone this out here. I think that needs to be a little bit longer, adding in like so. But now you can start seeing how, you know, your character doesn't, it feels awkward, and this character, even though it's really chunky and really kind of bitmapped, ripped up, it's got a better silhouette, it's got more feeling, it's got more line of action, and I think the anatomy poses a little bit better. Now, I'm not using anatomy reference, I'm just kind of going off of what I know of. So, I mean, you know, stuff like this, you want to really get like one of those action figures to pose and light it up, and it'll give you a lot of your information. All right, I hope that helps.